everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is my first makeup tutorial for New Year's Eve. So you can see it's lots of glitter. I had loads of fun filming this, so I really hope you guys like it as well. If you are interested in more videos from me, don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up and let me know what you thought down below. So if you want to see how I got this look right here, then just keep on watching. Okay, so as always, I'm starting with my soft ochre paint pot by MAC to create a nice blank canvas. And the first eyeshadow I'm going in with is this peachy shade from Makeup Revolution matte palette. It has loads of amazing colours for such a cheap price. I will link it down below. So what I'm doing is buffing that all the way through the crease to create a nice wash of colour and to start the sort of gradient effect. So I'm starting with a lighter colour first, and then I'm actually going in with a blush colour. So this is again from Makeup Revolution. It's super cheap, so I thought I'd alternate some products this time. So again, I'm deepening up the crease with a slightly darker peach shade, again to start that gradient effect. And I always go in with a clean brush to really buff out those edges because I want it to be super blended. For the next shade, I'm going in with Red Brick by MAC. Go in with any warm reddish shade right through the crease. I'm carrying on using my fluffy brush because I want it to be really diffused throughout the crease. So I'm just going back and forth. As you can see, it's pretty self-explanatory. You can see I keep going back and forth over those edges as well, just in the crease area, and don't worry about getting it on your lid either. So now using another eyeshadow, this is Brown Script by MAC, and it's a nice warm brown shade. So use whatever you have at home and do the exact same step through the crease. We just want to keep on deepening it up. I love to use a variety of eyeshadows just because I think it gives the best look for that gradient effect. So you can see I now go in with a clean brush and go over my edges. If you don't have a spare one to hand, just wipe off your brush and go back over the edges to make sure they're nice and blended. So from my Morphe palette, I will link it down below, I'm going in with an even darker shade and deepening up the crease, and I'm doing it in the exact same area right from the outer corner to the inner corner, and you can see it's starting to look a little bit unblended, but don't worry, I go in with a sort of creamy shade. So if you ever feel like your eyeshadow isn't looking very blended, just go back in with a creamy shade and buff out those edges and you'll be good to go. So because I kind of wanted to create a soft cut crease, you don't have to do this, but because I was putting glitter on the lid, I kind of wanted a guide on where to put it. So I use a flat shader brush and that same soft ochre paint pot, and I start to carve out the crease. So I put it all over the lid right up to my natural crease, and then I just blend or buff out the edge ever so slightly with a pencil brush. Like I said, it is optional, you don't have to do it, but it just is so I have a guide. So the glitter I'm using is actually from a craft shop. Make sure you're really careful when you're not using makeup glitter in case you have sensitive eyes. And I'm just using MAC's Mixing Medium, dipping my brush into that, then the glitter, and I start to dab it on with my eyes closed. So you can do this with eyelash glue, but that tends to be a little bit messy and it can sting the eyes, so I prefer this method. So I just keep dabbing it until I get the best intensity. Just go back over the edges so you get it how you want it, and I wanted mine super kind of extreme, so I kept going over it so the whole of my lid was covered. So I now go back in with my pencil brush and I deepen up the crease even more because I wanted it, I wanted quite a contrast. So you can see here I'm just buffing out the edges slightly. So don't worry about the underneath, you can clean those edges up. I don't like it super sharp, so I just softly wipe over the edges of the eyeshadow and then I just go and clean up with some concealer. So when working with glitter, I always use liquid liner because you'll find gel eyeliner doesn't necessarily blend over the glitter that well, so liquid just makes it a little bit easier. It's not the best because it will still be slightly bumpy, so you will have to keep going back over it to get it nice and smooth. So I just use my brush and dip it onto the liquid liner and just do it that way because it's a little bit easier. So you can see now I'm just using a little bit of concealer, a couple of shades lighter than my skin tone to really brighten up the under eye, just because I feel that complements a kind of dramatic eye a little bit more. So using any loose powder, I then set that in place. You can see it makes it super flawless. I always do this just because my under eye will crease slightly. Obviously this isn't a day look. I will always do this for a night time. It is a little bit heavier, but you can get away with it on New Year's. So I'm repeating the same steps on the bottom lash line. So starting with that same lighter peachy shade and just buffing that under with a pencil brush just to balance the under eye out. So I now mix those two shades that I've used on the top the top crease area, and I'll use a flat definer brush just to really buff it into the lash line because I like it quite smoky underneath there, but you can do whatever suits you, remember. So I'm just going in with some lashes now. These are from Boots. I think they're from something called Vintage. I will link them down below. They're not the best lashes I used. I wish I just used my normal ones. But, you know, I wanted to change. I thought they were longer, but you can learn from your mistakes. Moving on, you can do whatever you want. Wear mascara if you prefer. So now I'm using this glitter eyeliner. I think it is from Gosh. So again, like all other products, I will link it down below. But I just wanted to add a little bit more glitter on the inner corner. So to tie in with the peachy colours on the eyes, I went in with that same peachy blush palette from Makeup Revolution, and I just buffed that right onto the apple of the cheeks. Then using the contour palette from Makeup Revolution, I'm using the lightest contour shade and just defining my cheekbone slightly. Like all the other palettes, they're super cheap and affordable, and you can get them online or in Superdrug, I think. And I also buffed that round the hairline as well, just to add a little bit of warmth and definition. Then use any highlight powder shade on the top of the cheeks to really bring out those cheekbones. I used the same one in that contour palette, and I must say it is pretty amazing for how cheap it is. Okay, and now I didn't want to close the eyes or make them like too heavy, so I went in with a light nude shade eyeliner right in the waterline. So as for lips, I'm sticking with that same peachy colour palette and going in with a nice glossy peach shade. This is Pure Zen by MAC, but as always, use whatever you feel comfortable in. I am just setting my skin with Smashbox primer water just to settle down any powders, and for my last step I'm just using that same highlight powder inner corners and on the brow bone to add that extra highlight. So that is the finished look, guys. I really hope you like this one, and you'll see me on my next one. Bye!